Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you, as always, by Lay of the Land with myself, Rolene Marks. And we bring you those top stories making headlines in Israel and the region every Monday to Thursday. Now, it's a relatively quiet news day in Israel today, something I always worry about because then it means something big is happening. Nevertheless, there have been some significant positive developments on the diplomatic front in the Jewish world and in Israel. So we'll start with France, and it has been announced that the French Senate has adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. This is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of what constitutes anti-Semitism and is seen as the benchmark by which we measure incidents or comments or rhetoric that is anti-Semitic in nature. It does allow for the democratic criticism of any policies that people might disagree with the state of Israel. Hey, Israel is a democracy, a robust one at that, and we have those debates and discussions within as well. But what it doesn't allow is for Israel's right to exist as the nation state of the Jewish people to be questioned and stated that it shouldn't be so. And of course, the normal traditional anti-Semitism that we have sadly seen for thousands of years. This adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism does send a positive message out to France's Jewish community that the government is committed to fighting this ancient hatred. Israel will welcome outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel as she visits the country on her trip around to basically end her time as Chancellor. And we would like to thank Chancellor Merkel for all her efforts that she has done to strengthen ties between Israel and Germany, as well as her dedication to combating anti-Semitism. The outgoing Chancellor will meet with Prime Minister Bennett and President Herzog, and on Sunday she will visit Yad Vashem, Israel's National Holocaust Memorial and Museum, to pay her respects. And on behalf of all of us, we want to thank you, Chancellor Merkel, for your dedication to Israel and the Jewish people. And Israelis and Emiratis got the welcome news that we will no longer be needing visas to visit each other's countries. Ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates are warming up on a daily basis, and this is another great step forward in our relationship signed by the Abraham Accords. We turn now to Europe, and UEFA, that is the Union of European Football Association, have announced that they will be conducting an investigation into incidents of anti-Semitism at a football match played in Berlin recently between Union Berlin and Maccabi Haifa. Certain fans in the stands burnt Israeli flags and chanted Sieg Heil in reference to Adolf Hitler. And it was announced earlier today by the Union Berlin president that they had identified at least one perpetrator, details of which have not been made public but have been handed over to the police. And he has apologized profusely and said that anti-Semitism or racism of this nature will not be tolerated. Sadly, a lot of what we're speaking about on today's broadcast centers around anti-Semitism, and the Auschwitz Museum and Memorial in Poland was defaced with anti-Semitic graffiti last night. Footage has been handed over to the police, who are investigating it, and what was written in German and English was a reference to the Old Testament that has been used by anti-Semites over generations. The museum have commented on it, saying that it is outrageous that this would occur at the site of one of humanity's greatest tragedies. And this comes as yesterday our President Herzog joined his counterpart in Ukraine to commemorate 80 years since the Babi Yar massacre, where 34,000 Jews were systematically murdered in 2 days by the Nazis. Auschwitz today remains probably the most poignant symbol of the Holocaust. It is the site of the greatest massacre of Europe's Jews. Over 1.5 million Jews, including children, were killed at Auschwitz, as well as other minority communities, and we don't forget them as well. And this comes as reports of a horrendous anti-Semitic incident in Leipzig, Germany last night. A German-Israeli singer was checking into a hotel in Leipzig and was told by the receptionist to pack up your Star of David and leave. The hotel, which will not be named in this broadcast, are taking action against that staff member and have also apologized. But what we are finding particularly disturbing, apart from the incidents, is that it has become mainstream and it has become the norm to treat Jews with this distinct, horrendous historical form of hatred. And we ask you, if you experience anti-Semitism or if you witness anti-Semitism in your communities, please to report to the authorities. So those are your top stories that are making headlines in Israel. We also just want to note that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we at Lay of the Land, as I'm sure many of you know, people have lost people or have suffered yourself with this cancer, which is not just restricted to women, but to men as well. And as part of International Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we encourage our viewers, our readers, please to make sure that you do regular checks. And while we're talking about content and things that you can be reading and doing, please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. There is an article up by Dave Kaplan about Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, her comments made at George Mason University last week. It is also up on our Facebook page. Now, we noticed that our content isn't getting out to many of you. Some of you have complained that you don't see our content. Please, if you do see our content that features on our site, on my page as well, and various other pages, please like it and share it. And don't forget to join our community on our Facebook page by liking us or following us. We are also on YouTube. Our channel is at the Israel Brief. And if you like our content, please share and subscribe. And we are on Twitter as well at Lay of the Land 5. That's at Lay of the Land 5. So with the Wednesday Hump Day edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, and join me again tomorrow with more top stories from Israel.